Once again, good morning to everyone who joined us. We have open lectures here, and the next lecturer is Kirill Gorynya. Gorynya. Kirill, are you here? Just checking. Yes, thank you. And while you are preparing, I would like to invite representatives of FinTech Skolkovo, Pavel Novikov. Let's give him a round of applause. Thank you very much. I will have a very short pitch. There are some ideas that there is no FinTech in this country, but I always answer in a very simple manner. We don't have everyone in Skolkovo, but probably we have the best guys. 50 companies are dealing with bank tech, and 120 companies that work in TechFin. They're working with banks, and those bank techs generated $77 million of revenue last year. They all generate profits, they all generate revenues, and that's just the top of the iceberg which is emerging in this country. And please raise your hands, those who represent banks here. Are there startups here? Look, well, I can see that some startups do not raise their hands, and I see that there's a good presence of bankers and startups at these lectures. I would like to listen to these guys. Some of them have already done something, and some of them are just starting, and they will tell you about their success during 1 year. With that, I finish my words, and I'm inviting Kirill Gorynya, a young, innovative purse wallet. Well, you must have seen Kirill, and if you have not, you can come to their desk at the exhibition. You can find where a bank can find a startup they need. And if you are successful, you can get an invitation to a fantastic Skolkovo FinTech party this night. Cyril, another service. Well, look, I'm a bit disparaged by the fact that there are no bankers here. Great, banking forum. Okay. Well, my presentation is addressed mostly to our future partners, I mean banks, but nevertheless, I will still present because this is a hot subject for me. Who knows about the pay? Who is paying? Who is using it? Who's using the wallet? Yeah, we have some. Yeah, where do I click? We've been talking about the Pay wallet. We did that a year ago. I will continue on that subject today. And I will try to tell you why we are struggling for it and why I'm doing it in particular. I was indicated as an evangelist in the program, and that is true because in 2010 I took a unilateral decision about launching this project. I wasn't certain of anything. I wasn't certain the technologies were ripe. I wasn't certain we would find future partners or that we would have strength to do something working, to make something work. But I was certain that sometimes smartphones will replace the wallet in the pockets of people and make their lives easier, more profitable, and better. And so this evangelistic approach made me launch into the unknown, and my faith did not fail me, I can say. Practically all the analytical agencies state a fact that mobile wallets is a separate trend in FinTech and in payments, in settlements all over the world, with different implementations, so to say, but certainly this is a mainstream trend in modern payments, in everyday payments. And this is supported by the growth of the market of those payments. One must pay the tribute to the Russian citizens. Russia, during the last 2 years, occupies a lot of area in those graphs. Last year, over 71% of all the payments, cashless payments, were using mobile wallets. And first and foremost, it has to be merited to our Chinese partners, but Europe and Russia are very actively catching up with the Chinese, and I hope that we will soon reach the same penetration level. I would like to say separately that mobile wallets is not only about online, it's not only about sophisticated users and scenarios. In fly retail, the mobile wallets are growing even better and faster, and we can see an unambiguous growth of the audience that are using this payment method. We have been observing this for 6 years, and it's not only the young people, although according to the forecast, optimistic forecast of one of the biggest payment system, the overwhelming majority of the young people in the planet will be using mobile wallets, which makes me happy, of course. 2/3 of the users want to have not just another payment method, and very soon it will be 3/3, because I'm convinced that this is what is to happen. People want to see a wallet in their phone, which is universal. We can replace absolutely every piece of plastic, every access methods, so that they can pay every day for anything. So today I'm talking about returning to the financial services. Our financial service is a wallet application. It's aggregated under the title of Pay Wallet, and I can say proudly that this is the first internationally certified Russian payment service, which can be not only used by users, but is streamlined to be used by our partners, such as telecommunications operators, retail, and banks. Well, while you're listening, you may be asking yourselves, if everything's so good, if everything is so growing so fast, why don't we see hundreds of new wallets every year, which are launched every year, which are enjoyed by huge audiences, and so on? It is because we, as developers, know very well that it's really difficult to catch up with that train. We are pioneers in contactless payments. We launched a contactless wallet before Google and Apple did that, but the certification of the Pay Wallet took over 2 years. It was on the 3rd attempt that we succeeded. 2 major and very respectful labs took place in the certification of our wallets. They are the only ones who can certify it, and we underwent 7 certification. And that's the answer to the question why we don't have 100, 200, or 300 new mobile wallets. And I must answer my favorite question: why do you need another Pay when there's a lot of other users. We are not only about the tokenization and card transfer, we are about digital emission through an application. We are all about our partners being able to create unique products on the basis of our wallet. We're about a powerful tool for marketing and targeting, and that's not only about Android. We are a tokenization platform for any gadget. We will launch that for the end users, and that will happen very soon. And we are a Russian company, and we provide very good conditions of connection for our first partners. And we are not actually about technologies. We are about a product which is used by millions of people here and now. 150 million people have already added that to their applications, and practically all the retailers in Russia are collaborating with us. A year ago, we claimed that some banks will be connected to us, and I'm proud to tell you that we already have a few very important partners. That's VTB, Открытие, Россельхозbank, and that list will be substantially extended.
And the most important point is that the Pay wallet is becoming accessible to our users. Google provides releases, but we have a workaround for those who are here, and you can actually upload the Pay version right now. Thank you very much. Kirill, you haven't left us any time for questions, but if there are any questions, would you like to take them? Okay, so everyone's uploading the wallet right now onto their devices. So you will also find information on the FinTender I was talking about at the beginning. Thank you very much. I would like to invite the young representatives of FinTech, Oleg Chanchikov, APIBank. You've got 7 minutes for your presentation. Well, could you give me at least one more minute? Good morning, colleagues. Let me ask another question once again. Tinkoff is not calling itself a bank. So are there people who work in banks? Could you raise your hands, please? Maybe there are shy people amongst you. Are there people here who are not supposed to say that they're working in banks? How strange. Well, nevertheless, let's continue. Good morning. My name is Oleg Chanchikov. I'm the head for the development of Open API Bank, Open Banking. I would like to talk about the developments as of last year. 1 year ago, we presented one of our first projects. Currently, we are presenting our products at the 4 stands of Finopolis. So why do we need Open API? We're not going to talk about how wonderful all that is. We're going to answer the question is why we need it, what it can give to the banking infrastructure. Well, actually, it's quite simple. It's quite simple, to tell you the truth. Our service is divided into 4 departments. Virtual banks, you all know Revolut, Rocket Bank, and other representatives. They're not banks. It's a kind of a marketing level where a service company or an app has decided that it can sell its product for the bank much more effectively than the bank itself. And currently we are launching another solution with a cashback service which is called APIBank. You can take a look at it at the stand at the Skolkovo stand. The second point I wanted to make, and the second level, is calculation and computation at marketplaces and aggregates. In order to sell anything, you need to believe in what you're selling. Let's imagine Avito. There are sellers and buyers, but no one believes each other. So in order to ship the product without receiving payment and receive the product, it has to be built on banking instruments that are provided by the Open API platform. And the most tasty products are the possibility to get inside banking information or the bank secrets. So what is this access to information about? That is access to information on how your client is paying for his products and which banking products your client is using. We do this work for you. We integrate all this information and we provide you with personal data if the client allows us to do so. We use scoring based on banking data on how the recipient receives the money, uses it and spends it. And the fourth level or stage that I wanted to talk about, we've got Ilya present here representing PFM services, which allow us to work with our personal finance. In other words, we produce information on the classification of payments, on the classification of spends. For the bank, it's very difficult to analyze such information. It takes a lot of time, but a platform provides all the necessary information using you as their clients and providing the necessary services. Maybe this was slightly boring, and therefore I would like to pass on to dancing. Let's talk about your own business. We have time for 3 questions on how Open API can be used for you. Right, so would you like to take your chance to ask the question? Do you have any questions? I have a personal question. Do you actually have enough time for sleep? When do you get the time to get a rest? You've got a lot that you've been presenting lately. Colleagues, if you have no other questions, I will be glad to answer them at the Skolkovo stand, at the Visa stand. And if you look at the QR code, you will find the necessary contact information as far as I'm concerned and my company is concerned. Thank you very much. Don't take away the device with you. One of the goals of the Skolkovo Fund is not simply to help the startups, but also to commercialize and sell these products by attracting investments. We are aimed at selling the product, not only in Russia, but abroad. I'd like to invite Boris Batine, ID Finance company, which has achieved quite significant results in this area. Would you like to share your experience, Boris? Gladly. My name is Boris Batine. I am the founder of the company ID Finance. I'm glad to welcome you all here. As there are no bankers and there's no point in my selling the product, therefore, let's talk about the history of the technology. Russia was always a source for great scientific ideas and developments. Let's take a look at some of them. The Sputnik, the and in the end, the Revolut. So, in other words, there are a lot of great ideas, that had been a lot of great ideas that were put forward by the representatives of our country. Quite a number of significant developments in the area of science and scientific researchers. In other words, this is what we are usually characterized for, and this is one of our main features. The best mathematicians, the best risk managers come from Russia, and therefore we created ID Finance Company, which hires these people and create a product, selling it not only in Russia but also abroad. And Russia could serve as a certain template of a pioneer in financial technology. This is what we can see, what we can evidence by way of development of Tinkoff, APIBank. All these banks are one step ahead in comparison to their foreign counterparties. And Russia is a platform for innovation. Apple Pay was more common in Russia, by the way, than its, so to say, motherland and other countries such as the US. And one of the analysts from Boston Consulting Group also points out that Russia, from the point of view of this development, is one of the leading countries. So our company has been working for more than 7 years, selling .com banks and financial institutions the expertise in banking processes, such as processing data, and we are already working in the CIS in Kazakhstan, Georgia, in Europe, in Latin America, in Brazil and Mexico, and we are planning to broaden the scope of our operations and to aim at other potentially important markets. We see a great demand for financial and products, for the optimization of financial products. So what do we actually do? Which services do we actually provide? We provide a turnkey solution for our clients. We work with our clients from different countries. We integrate with the sources of information in different jurisdictions, and BCI, BCM, Siraz, and other telecom companies. We provide solutions for structured data. In the area of structured data, we work for credit scoring bureaus and credit scoring companies, and provide information on the client, on the manner of spending, and on the interests of the client. And using this information, we can do the scoring of the client in forecasting the possible default or the possible future spends. We have created a credit conveyor processing information on a line, and we've been able to process more than 20 million applications. We have quite a high retention rate, and the clients who have become part of this ecosystem are very loyal. There is a high percentage of loyalty. Approximately 90% of our clients remain within the ecosystem. Our solutions allow for the automation of any stage of work with the client, KYC, in the area of KYC, taking into consideration the numerous risks, it is important to provide a product which would be satisfactory for all parties concerned, including the provision of experience. Working with a client, building up on cross-sales, all the stages of the work with the client can be automized. So the credit conveyor scoring, increase of profit, automation of processing, and decrease of costs, and increase of loyalty. So all these factors have a very positive impact on the work of the banks, of financial companies. So therefore, our clients are actually quite happy to work with us and get a high financial result, which leads to a high financial result. Well, human resources is one of the issues that we're working on. We are expanding our ranks, looking for experts in the sphere. But as I have already said, the Russian expertise and the experience in science of Russia are leading on the international arena. As I see, the technology which is developed in Russia is in high demand all over the world.
Well, that's all in 2 words. Thank you, Boris. Well, traditionally, there is a lot of hands up. Friends, who's working abroad? Who has a business abroad? I can see 3 hands. Alexey, yes. Yes, I can see that. People are somehow shy. Maybe we're not telling them something that is of interest to them. Let's help the future presenters. Did you come to listen to what? The pitches, the startups, Skolkovo, as it was announced. Maybe it's all the investors. Yeah, we didn't ask about the investor. Are there venture funds or business angels here? No. Well, I'm not. It's a riddle. May I ask someone to introduce themselves? Can I ask you to introduce yourself? I apologize for this. Yes, please. Please. Colvert. A vendor of banking software. Not competitors, partners. So, in principle, you work with banks. Do I hear it right? Yes. Okay. I think that's a useful story. Well, are you thinking about working in other countries? Why didn't you raise your hand? Well, that's a difficult audience. Well, let's do the following. The next speaker will first ask the question. Somebody will answer it, and then we'll hear the presentation, because we don't want to be useful or useless. Our colleagues asked us to tell about technologies, business models, to help the startups or the banks to find innovations, because here you can go to Skolkovo desk or Promobot. There are 15 startups there, and Boris, I will allow you to go. No, I like it here. So if you find another microphone for the colleague, we'll leave you here. Well, let's thank Boris. That's a unique company. Well, you turn a cold shoulder on them. There are 15 Skolkovo residents here, and there are some people who are Skolkovo residents, but they are shy about it. And I want to invite one of such residents, Nikolay. Let's welcome Nikolay Adeev, APIBank. That makes the best interfaces in the world for the banks, both mobile and internet interfaces. I would like to have my presentation on the screen because there are no bankers here, but it is my understanding there are vendors here. The vendors would be interested in listening to it because all of our experience boils down to practical collaboration. I will talk about useful interfaces. I'm Nikolay Adeev. I'm from Abanking, and Abanking is a financial group from our parent company. We also work in automotive industries, and for but I will be mostly talking about FinTech. We are a very young resident. The product is only 2 years old. During those 2 years, we got a lot of regalia for implementation in corporate and retail banking. The latest regalia was the SME Banking Club and the implementation of our product at EuralSib, which was sixth among all the banks of Russia. And most importantly, this is the only implementation that is so high and that is based on vendor technologies and not made by bank in-house labs. In some banks, it is prohibited to say they are banks. They are full-fledged IT companies. And nevertheless, this new product is very, very good, despite the fact that we don't have our in-house lab. So what are we doing? We're allowed to get an absolutely new face, a new interface, a new representation of the mobile and browser banking for corporate and retail clients over the existing legacy infrastructure. That's very important because we know how to work with legacy infrastructure which was installed in banks years ago. We can also form a full-fledged ecosystem on the sales of non-financial services, forming a concept of ecosystems when the consumer uses both banking and non-banking products, the products by banks and bank partners. The technological point is that we allow to develop remote channels using the single code architecture, and that's very important from the time to market and synchronization, reducing costs for optimization and so on. And we digitalize a banking offline process. Speaking about the prerequisites for this platform, we saw that there is a market because the classical vendors put a lot of limitations on the customization on the frontal component of the interface. So we wanted to create a DBO mechanics over the classical solution. But we started to develop the flexible product logics, and we faced limitations of business logics in the existing system, and inevitably we came to our new architecture, which has several tiers of products. First and foremost, it's the front level, which is a number of digital services which consolidate data from different back systems, not only from the DBO nucleus, and we started developing our own DBO infra services connected to the cloud B2B products, which can be distributed within the banking channels. Then we started developing API for host-to-host interaction, which allows to customize working with corporate clients and with agents. Like I said, the entry to the market was through the DBO products. So single core architecture for the frontal platform, and you make a daily banking solution, but digital banking is not only about that. A lot of universal banks see digital banking exclusively as a channel. We have a wider look, so we created a digital office which is seamlessly connected, and from the standpoint of a customer, you don't have any difference, don't see any difference between the internet bank and the digital office. But based on the digital office, we try to automate the non-transactional business cases. For instance, the onboarding for different banking products. One of the most interesting things is onboarding for opening accounts for corporate clients. This is a complex process in many banks because there are different target systems that govern the status of that electronic document, and one of the best cases is a creation of such digital chains on opening such accounts online with the minimization of offline component. Our law does not provide for a fully remote operation here, but you can use the courier network, so the communication is minimized. So the client sees some digital office which is transformed later into full-fledged online banking, preserving the same layout. So it's the internet bank without the mechanism for transactions or payments. Then the next one is automation of the client network, that is facilitating electronic document exchange, which is which does not only contain the control of pools of electronic documents and applications, but has a certain logic of mutual settlements of commissions, which allows the bank to increase the distribution of its product and to expand this channel. The third very important block in the branchless philosophy development is interesting for small regional banks, and that's a creation of service, of mobile service, which uses an application that allows to work with certified digital signature, and that can be used by bank personnel who don't have traditional offices. And the non-financial services distribution case is a component of a marketplace which has banking and commercial products and a pool of popular services which can be consumed inside the channel. I will show how that happens. This this is what the client sees, where they can connect to the bank, use the service, pay for it. Summarizing all those cases and applications, the digital office allows to build any types of digital documents supporting any status models in the authorized or unauthorized areas, or to create documents before or after authorization. One of the pilot cases for us is management of a registered bank or a registered business, which can be a service that is distributed within a digital office for the existing clients, because the existing clients register a new client or change their documents, and this service can be used to attract new clients and to automate the existing ones. Our partners are among the top 50 banks. Those are the banks that introduced the digital banks. The first case was for Возрождение Bank. It's interesting because it's a case that is absolutely autonomous from the infrastructure. This is the client's dashboard. It's all in real time, so the agents' systems can work from their target systems, but it's a fully autonomous system. The second case is a transformation of a digital office into a full-fledged digital bank. This was with the Crimean Bank, and this is a personal dashboard, and the case that we are, which is among the top 6 of the best implementations, is CIS and the Caucasus. It's a pool of projects for Uralsib Bank, and this is an example of how you can acquire a non-financial service inside any channel. So it's an internet bank. You can select the partner's proposals, select the account from which you want to pay, to select the service, to pay for it, to confirm the operation, and after that you can use that service inside our product without leaving our internet bank. The mechanics of building in such services must follow the interest of your clients. There is no universal preset, and you should see this component as a transportation infrastructure, but certainly business and marketing must decide which services must be integrated and what should be sold to internal clients. Although we started as a full front systems, we have our own product microservices, our own internet channels, our own infrastructure, which allows to use the information or internet banking both outside and inside by increasing and updating our core systems. Thank you. I'm finished.
Thank you very much. You have managed to provide a lot of information within such a short period of time. Are there any questions? You're very welcome. My name is Alexander Atkritsi. I'm a broker. As far as I understood, you're looking at a box decision. So the question is, how do you work with this box in-house? Or will that be on your support, under your support? It's not all SARS decision. It's all within the banking system, and the licensing model presupposes co-development. And as far as customization is concerned, it is an open position, depending on who the owner of a repositorium is. We work together with the company. Part of it is cloud technology. The third service, for instance, accounting, is driven outside the cloud. Otherwise, it's either a SaaS model or module within the banking framework. There are colleagues who wanted to ask something from Krok. Good afternoon, Oscar Krok Company. I wanted to ask you about the analytics. Is it inbuilt or embedded analytics, or can you integrate it with other analytical systems? Well, we always integrate. We do not invent the wheel, so to say. We always integrate with other systems, introducing something of our own as well. Thank you very much, Nikolay. That was very interesting. Let's talk about the eternal stuff, anti-fraud as a driver of growth, cybersecurity. Sergey Velts from Cybertonica. Good afternoon, Sergey. Let's talk about the information that you have to provide for us, and who will be basically the users of this information. My name is Sergey Velts. I'm the founder of Cybertonica company. And I'm not going to talk about our company today, but I'd like to share my ideas on problem resolution, the resolution of fraud. And I hope that these ideas will be useful irrespective of the fact whether you're using a modern technology, updated technology, or any other type of technology. Well, I think that the principle of using such technology might be interesting for everyone. The problem that we want to resolve, and we are resolving, is the perception of fraud and cybersecurity as a thing in itself, so to say, something that exists within the corporation, as in information being fed into the company, but being restricted by the framework of the company. And the colleagues from the startups may support me in saying that pilot projects are not very well forecasted. No one actually knows how long the design of the structure will take. We are fighting this stereotype, trying to break this stereotype. We'd like to make anti-fraud, apart from being an essential part of the business, also to become a part that is important for the growth of the business. We've been working on this topic for more than 4 years in Russia, Europe, the UK, providing cloud technology for payment companies, decreasing the risks and providing for new points of growth, increasing conversion and increasing the profitability of businesses. What are the possibilities that anti-fraud can provide for the businesses? How can it help to change and shape the technological processes within the company? Well, we're going to talk about the integration of different departments in the bank so as to provide a better service for the clients and how to compete with other payment systems with other acquirers. Well, the first example just demonstrates that anti-fraud is one of the most important parts of a banking business because it provides for the information in real time that is essential for the development of a bank. In other words, it is information on the client, his spend, and the manner of payment. They're asking for some payment systems, some retailers are asking about the interests of the client, the marketing information, and on the basis of this data, of this basis, there is also machine learning, and you can provide for models connected not only with security but with other important issues for the bank. And we can also provide for the launching of systems for marketing. In other words, one particular integration can provide for the solution of a multitude of problems and goals. And it also drives people in the bank to work as a team, to share information and provide for the launching of new products. You don't have to necessarily integrate new systems. It is unnecessary to explain colleagues from the security departments on how the system works, because everyone understands from this database what the risk scoring is about, how the model works, and how to provide for a new product. For instance, there was a problem. The processing couldn't deal with the volume of information, and it was decided to resolve this problem with promise payment. In other words, lend money to a prospective client. And within just a number of days, on the basis of the anti-fraud system, this product was designed, the solution was designed. Apart from that, using cloud technology and cloud service allows for the development of a project on a efficient and highly effective basis. The service, the anti-fraud business, will be growing in line with the transactions. For instance, the anti-fraud builds up in the high season. In the low season, it is decreased. How do you view the anti-fraud problem from another angle? Detection of fraudsters is just one part of the whole operation, and it is important to find out this particular segment, which is quite small. But apart from that, we can also target other clients, such as VIP users and VIP clients. For instance, take a client who wants to buy a yacht on his credit card. This might become quite suspicious, and the anti-fraud system might create certain barriers. Well, you can break the border between private banking and anti-fraud and provide for a better communication. We provided an API and a mobile app for the managers of private banking, where they can actually provide the necessary information about the client and allow for the transaction to be completed. This way, we allow for the decrease of exchange of communications on the topic. It can be, the solution is quite easy in this case. And the third example is increasing the profitability of transactions. When we come to the payment hubs, to banks, anti-fraud monitoring embraces 3D secure, disallowing foreign cards to be used, and lowering the floor limits, which companies presuppose will bring them more security. But if we provide for an adaptive identification and provide for a better management of payments, this will allow us to be more flexible. In other words, breaking down the boundary between the Treasury departments and the departments dealing with the merchants, we can manage the rates on a very flexible basis and manage chargebacks from the point of view of fraud. So it's another way, another gain on the market of acquiring, on the acquirers market, which can be a competitive advantage for many banks using the system. So a very good and well-organized anti-fraud may bring up the conversion and provide for flexible conditions. And another example of our cooperation with Yandex and Uber during the football championship in 2018. We were expecting a lot of visitors to come and use their cards, and it was difficult to forecast how these cards will be processed. We integrated the system and everything went quite well. The integration took 2 months, and we helped our colleagues to relaunch the anti-fraud system, centralize the management of anti-fraud, which was quite important because the championship lasted within a limited period of time, and therefore we had to work fast. As a result, we helped both these colleagues and other Russian startups to enter the European markets, the US market. And so therefore, if there are any colleagues from Europe or the UK, from the payments systems, please come up to our stand and we will be able to provide you with the necessary information and instigate cooperation. I'll be glad to answer any question on anti-fraud and cybersecurity. Thank you very much, Sergey. Thank you for providing us with such important information and for providing taxi drivers with adequate help. World Cup. Thank you very much, Sergey. Okay, I will introduce a topic which will definitely raise a lot of questions. Let's welcome Alexey APIBank. Well, we started off as a bank, and now we're working as a more comprehensive FinTech company. We always talk and argue with Sergey about FinTech in Russia. We don't have any particular figures to base our arguments on, but as far as FinTech in Russia is concerned, as far as the generation of products and services, it embraces approximately $50 billion. What is the share of Russia? Well, approximately the same, but in rubles. Well, 2% of GDP, that would have been great, but there are other different opinions.
There are startups who generate $100 million, and a startup, in our idea, to our mind, is a company that is a fast-growing company that has been in existence for about 10 years, and it doubles its revenues every 2 years. And there's about $300 million outside Skolkovo, but there are some old-timers, so to say. Well, let them not be offended. The global companies that raised our financial market from the IT standpoint, and they generate hundreds of millions, but the tids and bits that fall out from the banks is certainly sum up to over 1 billion, and the FinTech generates over 200% of GDP, over 2% of GDP. I had a choice to speak about the company, or taking into account that this is the biggest national FinTech forum, to express my opinion about what's happening in the industry and how we cope with that. And I will speak a little bit about the company by the end. So that's what I chose. Last year, Boston Consulting Group, the most authoritative researcher of cashless payments in the world, called us a Russian miracle. And this year, quite recently, there was another research that confirmed to this fact that miracles have happened in this market, and there's a huge increase in cashless payments payments during the last 5 years, but they forecasted that in the next 10 years, the Russian market will grow twice as fast as an average European market, meaning the cashless payments. So, the subject of my presentation is that we have something to be proud of. So Russia has shown a really phenomenal success in implementing client services and promoting modern products and FinTech solutions. What should we think about and why we should take that with a pinch of salt? And the second research, recent research by IDC answers to that question. This research was conducted for 16 years, and it has 100 contacts that are leaders in revenue in servicing financial sector. Those are the companies that render services or sell equipment or software or hardware to the financial sector. And do you think there are Russian companies on that 100 companies list of leaders? Who thinks there are? Yeah, I forget. Yes, there's one company from Russia, and that's Kivin, that ranks 60th. We understand what Kiwi is. Kiwi renders services at financial centers by accepting payments for banks, and not only banks. I think you have already made a conclusion. Our market has made this breakthrough using foreign services, foreign equipment, and that's the biggest challenge. That is, Russia adapted innovations that appeared in the US and in Europe, but so far Russia does not render its products to the world. More than that, even the progress that happened in Russia was using foreign technologies, and that's the main challenge. What can we do with it? And is there any opportunity? Well, I'm the founder of Mandarin, and I'm always positive about what's happening, and I think that there are colossal opportunities, and our main potential is our intellect. That's the entrepreneurs and the personnel, a huge number of developers, from 500,000 to up to 1 million people work in IT in this country. That's a huge human resource and potential that is missing in a number of countries and regions. If you think that we have a problem of finding personnel, then ask Acronis in Singapore. They start training people from kindergarten because there's no trained personnel in Singapore. There's a shortage. In Russia, it's a well-developed infrastructure, and 110 banks, apart from the one, the main bank, have an open API that can be connected, and that's cool. We started working in Europe, and there, under the centralized European regulation, it's much more difficult to launch an open API. Everything is much more regulated. So coming to the moderate regulation, well, it's not as liberal as in the US, but it's not as strict in Europe, that's for certain. And the venture capitalists also say that Russian companies that create new projects are wrong about the Russian market. They must go out into the global market. But we think that the presence of a big enough Russian market is good, that allows to test some products on an early stage, like we did. Now, those were advantages. Now about disadvantages. The greatest disadvantage, and one of the reasons why Russia is not providing products to the world, it's only providing it to the domestic market, is the fact that we don't have venture investments in the market. The volume of venture investment in the market is equal to zero. $55 million were invested during the 6 months of 2019 by all the venture investors. The government adds about $15 million, and that's NC statistics over 6 months. What's important here? That's 3 times smaller than in 2018 in Russia, and that's about 4 hours of investments in the Silicon Valley and in China. So if you divide the annual investment by the days in the year. So we don't have any investment in this market, and most of my colleagues confirm to that. I think that's the biggest challenge, and I think that's a subject for the regulator to think about incentives and initiatives that would make people invest into our companies that create products for domestic and global market. And the second problem is that our biggest players, well, I invented a term, octopus. Americans introduced the unicorn idea. It's a very simple idea. So this idea or this product, in their opinion, should be sold all over the world and scaled up. Russia's model is an octopus model. An octopus is someone who makes everything themselves and uses those cool platforms like APIBanking and other things. My colleagues confirmed 2 presentations ago that the only implementation was through outsourcing. But such octopi produce all the products, and that relates to our national heritage. I mean Yandex and big IT and non-IT companies. And that's the huge barrier to the breakthrough products developed by such startups as myself. And the second big disadvantage is that so far those octopi are not interested in productivity of labor. The productivity of labor is very low. The biggest online bank in the world, well, an old school PayPal, which has a license in every country. It's a full-fledged, vertically integrated bank. So all its results are tens of times bigger than our biggest banks, but they have as many personnel as Tinkoff Bank, and Crédit Agricole has 350 times more assets, and it's very digital than Tinkoff Bank, which is a digital, but they have 4 times more personnel, and it's not an online bank. And you can compare Tinkoff to Agricole, which is over 100 years old. So this is a factor that is very important for the breakthrough technologies development. And very briefly about startups. It so happens that there are no investments. The market is unfavorable for the development of breakthrough products by small companies, but that is not so. In this situation, you can still keep working, but even startups do not always concentrate concentrate on what they're doing. So startups have small octopies of their own who do everything, who do not concentrate, who do not provide global solutions for Russia or other markets. And there's another classical thing, that is weak sales. An American company means overpromise and underdeliver, whereas a Russian company means underpromise and overdeliver. So they cannot promise properly. So there's one developer and 20 salespersons, that's American styles, and 20 developers and one salesperson is Russian style. This is true, and this is something we have to work with. Very briefly about Mandarin. How do we cope in this difficult but interesting market? We deal in payments. We're an open payment automation platform. Well, we are well, it seems that everything has been developed in this area, starting from PayPal, but the world has changed, and BCG does not stand for Boston Consulting Group here, but it's business, customers, and governments. Those three institutions are fused in modern internet trading. So the model used by internet trading is no longer one stage, but all the old platform were streamlined for a one-stage business process, including PayPal. And our API process can automate any financial model without any using manual labor. I will provide one of our clients' case. When you talk about marketplaces and platforms, everybody talks about AliExpress, Amazon. Are you going to service AliExpress or Amazon? Actually, there's an infinite number of services, and we're surprised by how widely this model is used in real life. And one of the companies that we service, this is Doxy, that allows people to leave their pets for other people. This is a C2C marketplace, so physical persons pay physical persons for rendering services. And there's thousands of these companies, and they always have payment problems. They always start as a recipient of money from the performer. They don't control the transaction. The settlement takes place out of the perimeter, so the platform takes money from the performer, either for the transaction or for advertisement, and that includes a huge number of players who still use this model, but this model does not guarantee safety for the client and does not guarantee the financial transparency for the marketplace. The next model that is used in the market
is used by aggregates in different markets, such as the taxi market, for instance, the taxi business market. The acquirer sends the money to the account, then indirectly sends it to other representatives of the system, and they pay the taxi drivers. So we understand that all these factors are, and the costs and the risks that the system has, but that's the way the majority of marketplaces in Russia work. Either the first or the second model applies to them. The Doxy model provides a chain of 2 payments or 3 or more, which is one of the simplest scenarios, where an individual pays another individual, a customer pays to another customer, and one of the individuals is paying a commission fee to the marketplace. One of the individuals we are now working on a system that would allow individuals pay taxes automatically and also provide the necessary necessary documentation for the self-employed and provide for business insurance as well. Well, my time is practically up, but I brought forward an example of the way we work, and practically every second a transaction is completed, and we've provided for more than 1 million transactions, and the investments were more than $100,000 into the startup. Well, actually, I was hoping that there would be more venture capitalists present here, representatives of venture capital here, but in order to promote our business, and I hope that I had been able to raise your interest in our business. Thank you very much for attending this particular discussion. Do you have any questions? Thank you. As I see, a number of bankers have already joined us. So I am the representative of venture capital companies. So what precludes you from growing? We are growing. We've grown to 4 million annual revenue. And could I go back, retrace my steps? There was a slide on the concept of our business. The recipe for success was the functionality of the product. The second point is the product had been created as an API, as an open platform, which means that our API can be used not only by the service, but by another company or IT integrator for the development of their own products. So there are quite a number of companies that are providing for the development of their business on the basis of our platform. And next year, we're starting to work in more than 30 countries. We are actually based on cash flow and counting every penny. This is the way every FinTech grows in Russia. What are your plans for the future? Well, ideally, I'm absolutely sure that there will be platforms on the market which will allow for global coverage. The business has become international, but the payment systems are lagging behind. I believe that the goals we're setting will be completed in the future. Well, we are currently providing for local solutions, but the businesses are ready to enter their so-called international phase. They're not happy with the local restrictions. In other words, companies are aiming at international cooperation. So what are some of the cases that you could bring forward as an example? Colleagues, are there any more questions? Well, I suppose we will complete the session of the Skolkovo Fund. We are very welcome at the stands, and we will be able to provide you with all the necessary information.